Everyone, it's Miss Celeste, and I'm your instructor for ECE 102. And we are now in week 4, part 14 of our course, and we are moving right along fairly quickly. And I hope these videos have been really insightful and helpful for you. Before we get started, though, I do want to talk a little bit about our week and just making sure that we are prioritizing our time and everything is getting accomplished. So most importantly, the assignment aspect this week is ultimately the main focus. I really want you to finish creating the curriculum and classroom guide. And this is a guide that you would use in your classroom for yourself, of course, any other teachers or educators or even admin coming in, so they knew exactly where everything was that you were focusing on within your classroom and curriculum. So a lot of the areas have been done already, so there are some new areas that you'll need to accomplish. But again, if you have any questions, please reach out as soon as possible, just because I really want you to have enough time to complete this whole guide and answer any of your questions. So, and we also just have a journal that I need you to submit by Saturday. In addition, our final 45 hours are due this week. So making sure that we finalize those, get our supervisor's signature, and also just make sure that we turn that in by Sunday. And then I also wanted to mention, although this is our last week of assignments, we are going to have one more live session next week. So all the details will be in Canvas pertaining to the day and the time. And you do need to attend that. That is mandatory. It is a time for you to present your reflection PowerPoints. And you're just going to share with us some areas that you learned and how you can apply them in your classroom. And I do have a template that I've made, so that can be of help for you, and you just need to fill in each slide. But again, if you have any questions, that was to be started and completed last week. So that should be ready to go by our final live session. All right, so let's get started. So today we're going to talk a little bit about understanding the curriculum design, but specifically for toddlers. Infants and toddlers' developmental foundation build the love for learning and understanding. An individualized curriculum provides a way for teachers, caregivers to be intentional about the way that they support development and learning in children under 3, and ensure that all aspects of development are being monitored and appropriately supported in a variety of ways. So toddlers are ever changing. Their development is rapid at this time. So it's really important that we really observe and monitor and then apply support when needed appropriately, right? So we really want them to find that love for learning, but in order to do that, they have to build that solid foundation and get to know really themselves, their abilities. So in order to do that, they have to try new things. They have to go through the process. They have to just be allotted to do so many different experiences in order to learn more about themselves. So we're definitely not leading that. We're not overbearing or trying to correct at all times, because we really want them to find the correction themselves or why something's not working and kind of working through that process. And that's part of the whole finding that love for learning, because that discovery, when that happens, their faces light up and they're so excited. And that is the sticker and the, as I like to call, or the magic moment for toddlers. And then also just making sure that we are focused on the key learning areas. So of course, the social emotional, very important. Discovery, of their confidence, their independence or responsibility, so many areas there, getting to know how to problem solve, and then of course discovering the world around them, making sure that they're fully aware of what's around them and what it is, and just asking so many questions and really intrigued with that. Language and literacy, of course. So a lot of language development is happening with toddlers, forming sentences and communicating their needs, and again, problem solving with words, and all of that is definitely rapidly changing. And then, of course, math and numbers and quantities and such are happening. So definitely have many material so they can experience that. And of course, their creativity, um, within the sensorial aspect of their art area, colors and shapes and then moving to the motor skills, so the fine and gross motor skills. So of course, within the classroom, we could do a lot of fine motor development, exercising their pincer grasp and giving them opportunities to really exercise, their muscles there. And yeah, so it's just, we really have to just really dive deep into making sure that we are focused on these key learning areas when we're creating a curriculum for toddlers, but also being mindful of the individual approach that we need to take when implementing the learning. Here's just an example of a toddler curriculum overview of what a classroom possibly would follow. And some of the terms, like I've said in my previous videos, may be changed, and you may use other terms, but again, it has all the same meaning. So within this classroom, which is a Montessori environment, they really focus on the practical life, the language, the math, and sensorial. I would just name those right off the bat there. Of course, they're integrating the cognitive skills, the motor skills within. And ways that they're doing that is when they're talking about their motor development in the practical life area, they have like a pouring exercise, a sorting exercise, and definitely, through the cognitive area, exploring books, concentration, and concentration as a whole is developing through that work cycle and them, really concentrating on what they're working on. And also giving them, the choice to be independent and choose what material they want to use is a big part of the learning process. Going to, language skills, they do a lot of, specifically in toddlers, right? We sing a lot. Everything is through songs and fun and excitement and music and movement. They really enjoy that. Conversations, talking a lot about, sounds and the alphabet. And then we move to making sure that we are focusing on the five senses through the sensorial skill. So there's different ways that we do that with, smell, touch, hear, etc. So there's many creative ways that I bet each of you have experienced each of these areas and been able to teach children. So in our live session, I really would love to hear more about how you apply these areas in the classroom and really just share ideas, because I mean, what works for you could work for someone else, within their environment. So yeah, so this is just an overview of an example toddler curriculum. Again, depending on what your approach is within your curriculum at your school, it could differ. But of course, we all have the same purpose of making sure we are focusing on the developmental domains and making sure we are supporting children's learning in that sense. But let's talk a little bit about the teacher's role. So the adult's role is not to just teach, but to observe and reflect on what the infant/toddlers are experiencing and how they learn, and then to support the process through interactions, the relationships with the child, the provisions of experiences in an environment that contributes to the child's success. So, there's many areas of what our role is as a teacher, and it is not just to teach children. I actually like to say guide. That's kind of the word that I use for myself, because I am supporting them through the process, because we are learning together. And that's how I like to verbalize, my role. But definitely observation is something I talk a lot about. Reflection is something I talk a lot about because it's important to get many different perspectives within the classroom, within your team. So, meeting often with your team and making sure that you all are observing because you all can see different things at different times because the learning is happening so fast that sometimes we miss things, right? So that's why it's important to have others observe too, not just one teacher in the classroom, just to have different perspectives. The environment, within a toddler classroom, really sets the tone for learning and provides children with a safe, healthy, secure space for consistent routines, exploration, and learning. So it's really important to make sure that you have a well-prepared environment before the children enter. So that means in the morning, you have certain tasks, and, after school, you have certain tasks. And so it's important that as a team, you guys accomplish that so the classroom is ready to go when the children come. Um, so they can explore and just start their learning right when they come in. Routines are really important to provide not only the context of much of their learning, but also just to ease the anxiety of especially new children, so they know what's coming next. Routines are very, very important at this age, pertaining to meals, feeding, naps, diapering, anything that happens. So then they know what's happening and it's not so scary, right? Just us as adults, right? When we don't know what's coming, it can be a bit scary and we can be a little nervous at times, right? So imagine how a toddler feels. So really try to put in that perspective. In the classroom, there's many ways that I would express the routine other than going through it. I would have a chart of what happens, first, second, third, and then also have pictures of what those transitions are so they can have a visual effect and make more sense of what's happening. But there's so many other ideas that you can do within your classroom for your children, but that seemed to work for mine. And then also promote, for them to explore and engage. And it also means for you to explore and engage with them. So sometimes I was thinking of a time I was in the classroom and I had some new children and they weren't yet sure what exactly they wanted to work on. So what I would do is I really would kind of, again, walk with them and be their guide and explore with them and try to find what they like. And we would do it together. And sometimes it would be a quick transition into finding something. And sometimes it took longer. But that moment with them really allowed me to kind of engage with them and build that connection. And so when you have that time to do that, I encourage you to do it. Because I'm a big believer, connection starts first before anything else. And then the environment is typically arranged in learning centers. So again, depending how your environment is, you might have different ways of saying it, different terms maybe that you use. But the purpose is to stimulate the learning with, across the domains and content areas, right? So we're all having this, we're coming to the same place. Group sizes always should be small. I know ratios differ with states and schools and ages, etc. But it's really important that you, especially when you're doing presentations, that you try to keep groups small. I'm a big believer in individual approach to that, especially if it's something new. But again, not to say that the groups aren't great either, but again, depending on your children and how they learn best. And here's just a quick video inside the early education classroom, which I thought was very insightful. So I'm going to share this really quick.
I've always loved being around kids. As much as I feel the children are eager to learn from adults, I found that I enjoy learning from them and what they have to teach as well.
Children's accomplishments are your accomplishments.
I went into college thinking I was going to be an English major, and my friend convinced me to take a child development course. And it was the best class I ever took. It was amazing, and it drew me in right away.
I feel good when other people are shining.
from their own strengths and not looking at me like I'm the one that's doing it for them.
My mother was an elementary teacher. She died with a desire to open a center or the daycare. I said, I'm going to do it for her.
It's a passion to be around kids and educate kids and be a part of the community. Like when I was a kid, I used to do dolls all the time and I did whatever I could to be with kids. And now I can't believe I'm doing it.
I love children and I want to serve them.
For a long time, we referred to early childhood as babysitting. As long as you weren't doing anything really awful, it was okay to just put a kid anywhere. Research more and more now is showing that those early years are most critical in the development of a brain, and that's when the very architecture of the brain gets formed. And the kinds of things that really promote that strong development are very rich, stimulating learning environments. Healthy, nurturing relationships and interactions with adults like teachers. When children experience those kinds of supports, their brain literally gets formed just like the structure of a building when you're creating the foundation, that if you don't do it right the first time, then you have to go back and you have to make all kinds of repairs, which is true with children.
Under my hood, I have it.
Children need to have these highest qualities environments and these interactions with their teachers that are really stimulating the development of this brain so that they're going to be better learners when they reach public schools. EEC has created this logo, basically saying caution, brain at work. It's a way for educators also to pay more attention to the important work they're doing.
A lot of parents think is that we just are in there playing with their children all day long. That's not what happens. We're playing with them and we're having purpose in their play.
Children's play is their work. And when they're in the sandbox and they're putting sand from one container into another, that's their math. When they're mixing colors, that's science. And it all helps their brain development.
This activity, let's say it's a cooking activity, what is involved in there? There's reading, there's math, there's measurements. All of that is built into baking a cupcake.
Touching and playing and laughing and making them feel excited and loved. That's what play is all about.
It's more than babysitting. You've got to further your education in order to help the children and also to keep up with the standards that the state and the federal government is now expecting. The challenging part was not in going back to school, but in realizing that I needed to go back to school.
I'm a school person. I love school. But it's better for me. I'm stepping up my game.
It's important for children to be with teachers that are well qualified because of the very issue that so much is forming in those early years.
At the time I went back, I was working 3 jobs and going back to school.
Being a parent, working, and going to school.
I was working here 8-9 hours a day and then having to drive 45 minutes to Westfield and sit in class for another 3 hours.
It took me 10 years to do my associate because I have a daycare that is until 5:30. When you are adult and you study during the night, the professors are more flexible.
Our workforce in early care and education tends to be a little older, so that we have people that have been working in the field for 20 some years without a degree and have been great natural teachers. And now they're being asked to increase their education. And many of them find it intimidating.
I felt kind of uncomfortable and then I realized I wasn't the only one there. And so that helped.
Once I got there, it ended up being really fun. And I had this, chunk of time every week that I would go to class and talk to other educators.
It was amazing going back and sitting in a room full of teachers from everywhere and pooling all of our ideas together.
It's a constant knowledge of how to work with different type of families. There's things I've never even think of and I found out going to school.
They use puzzles and they learn how to write, to help them how to write. And I learned that with my education.
All this information is passed down to helping the children. It gave me the confidence every day when I do my job to know that I'm doing the best and being the best I can be. Continuing education is really a crucial part of being a successful educator.
I want to go for my master's, and then maybe my master's after that. It's gonna be hard, but I'm willing to do it.
Really helped me to see the possibilities that are out there. There's all these other things that I could do as well.
I always was the older in the classroom, but I feel very great, very great. I say, if I can do it, everybody can do it. Why not?
Educators don't realize that they're really part of this movement to professionalize the field. So that ultimately what we're hoping for is that early childhood is held with the same esteem and status as, say, public school teachers.
Do it. Don't be scared. It's worth it. In the end, I did it, and you can do it too.
Such a great story and inspiration, because it is very true that sometimes there's so many misconceptions, right, of what we do and how we do it in preschool, and some just have different opinions on what it is. And it's so insightful, to see others, grow from those experiences and turn around and really share and shine a light on the value that early education brings and all the work that you guys do as teachers, and just really helping others understand the real benefit and the realness of what we do every day and how beneficial it is. And it's not just a babysitting, type service, but yet we are educating children and really diving into how they learn best and all the benefits that we can provide so they can be successful in their learning. And we are laying that foundation. So how proud and how amazing is that, that we get to do that. So I think all the teachers are just so special, and I can't thank you guys enough of everything that you do for children. And some recommendations that I would always encourage you to do is to continue learning. When you're also meeting with your team, I would encourage you to also reassess your classroom often. Try to find some reflection in the learning environment, even how you teach and how you approach children. It's okay. I mean, we're learning. Every child is different, and there's always other ways that we can approach that. And I just want to encourage you to challenge yourself in that way. Ask creative questions like, what is known about child development and learning? What's something new that you learned? What is known about the strengths, interests, and needs of each individual child in the group? So talk about your group, talk about, their needs, and because every group is different. So what you're talking about, at the beginning of the year might change in the middle and at the end. But what's so fun is to find those strengths and interests and what their individual needs are. So then you can tailor the lessons around that. And also just making sure that we are incorporating the social and cultural context within where the children live, and making that a part of the classroom, bringing parents a part of the classroom often. And that is so much a part of the curriculum and should be talked about more often in general. And lastly, I just want to say thank you so much. I appreciate your time today. I hope this video has been really insightful. If you have any questions, please reach out to me via email, or of course at our live session. Our next stop will be part 15 of week 4. So we are almost towards the end. So hang in there, and you guys are doing great. So till then, I'll see you later. Bye-bye.